What's up, Michigan? We are back with another In The Dugout podcast. My name is Lauren Plant. Every week during the baseball season, I get the great opportunity to have a great conversation with a great high school baseball coach here in the great state of Michigan. What can I say? Temperatures are in the 70s now. It's all great. It's good. This podcast is sponsored by the Michigan High School Baseball Coaches Association, and today we have Milan head coach Adam Gilles. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
All right, well, let's start off with the fact that, speaking of honors, that you are being inducted into the Michigan High School Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame. What does it mean to you to have this kind of recognition from colleagues I know you respect so much?
Yeah, it's really special. You don't when you go into teaching and coaching, you don't really go into it with hopefully getting awards or accolades. You're doing it because you love the kids, you love the sport, you love coaching, or you love the game, whatever it might be. And it's just really nice after, all the hard work that you do over the years to have your colleagues recognize you, especially the coach that nominated me. It means a lot. When I was talking to him on the phone earlier this year, and he was asking me about Hall of Fame stuff, about him being nominated because he's also going in this year. And it was Mark Bloomshield from Canton, and I am a Canton graduate.
Right.
So we were talking about stuff, and he's like, so what do you think about, what do I do to get in the Hall of Fame? And I'm like, well, you got to meet all the requirements. And he goes, well, what did you do? And I'm like, well, I'm not in the Hall of Fame. He goes, well, I can't go in if you're not in. So
nice. And
then a few months later, I got the call. So, it feels good. And, just knowing that, your name's going to be at Comerica Park for, forever, and that you made an impact on so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the Canton area, you're a Plymouth guy through and through. Said
Yes.
Your whole family grew up there. I lived there for 20 years. In fact, there was a time we lived extremely close to each other, and we both love the Mexican restaurant Barrio in downtown Plymouth. So for anyone listening who wants the best Mexican food in Metro Detroit, Barrio is a spot. Can I get an amen, Adam?
Yes, you can. Part owner Dean Rovinelli, who was a Canton graduate in 1993. I played with him.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow. So that's even a tighter now. I'm going to have to hit you up for some discounts next time I go on, kid.
Yep.
But you went to Canton High School, as we mentioned, class of 94. I remember that the Catholic League was very strong during your time in high school. I know Brother Rice had a couple titles. Warren De La Salle Downriver was playing some great baseball. And just in general, the competition level, it was, the 90s was a great time for high school baseball here in Michigan. What do you remember most about your time playing high school ball at Canton?
Well, I remember Plymouth-Salem winning the state championship in 1990 under John Gravelin, and my uncle was the head coach at Salem in the late 70s, Brian Gilles. And so I grew up always wanting to go to Salem, and then the luck of the draw, I get Canton. And it was perfectly fine. I had great coaches with Hall of Fame coach Fred Chrissy my sophomore year, Mark LaPointe junior year, and Ed Turek, who only coached 1 year my senior year. But in 1993, led by Coach Mark LaPointe, we beat Westland John Glenn, which had the Vesco brothers and Schefflers, and we beat them in the conference championship. I believe they went on to the Final Four. But it was just great competition, especially at the park with at Canton and Salem. We didn't call it PSEP like the kids do today. We just called it the park.
Right.
But a couple of my best friends played for Salem. My other best friend played for Canton. It was just a great rivalry, and it was super fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering, well, why hasn't he mentioned Plymouth? Plymouth did not exist back then. It was just two high schools at the park. So Plymouth was Plymouth-Salem. And also, yeah, it's weird. They do this chip thing. My daughter was a Canton Chief, so as the chip was drawn for her there.
To Plymouth.
Okay, well, there you go. So I saw you went to Central Michigan. Did you play there?
I went to play there, and I went to fall ball for a couple weeks. And it's strange when you get to college, everybody is a all-league player or an all-region player or a all-area player. And My light just went out. Hold on.
Oh, it's all
And
right.
I realized I was falling behind in school, and everybody else was having a lot of fun, so I stopped playing baseball. I actually played club volleyball for a couple years, and also just played everything intramural, and then just basically want to enjoy the college experience.
All right. Well, talk about the journey then of, winding up the head coach at Milan.
It's quite an interesting one. So
Okay.
the former Milan football coach Steve Robb, who is now a Canton assistant coach for football, my uncle Brian Gilles taught and coached him in the Plymouth Canton schools. When I was at Central Michigan University, every summer I would play modified softball at Massey Field in Plymouth, and I was on Coach Robb's team. Throughout my college career, he kept saying, hey, there's going to be a job at Milan. It's going to be a job at Milan when you graduate, possibly. So I interviewed at Milan, and I was offered a few different jobs, one in Livonia schools, one at Milan. And at Milan, I got to coach JV baseball and girls volleyball. So I was very happy because I got to coach two sports. Milan's a good half hour away from Plymouth. All my relatives who are coaches in the Plymouth Canton schools always said, try to work or coach at least a half hour away, so that when you go out on the town or something, you're not going to run into parents or kids, which was great advice.
Yes.
So this gets even cooler. So in the summer of '99, after I got hired, I was playing adult baseball in Ann Arbor. And I showed up to a game. The game was already going on, and this kid on the mound was just throwing gas. And they said, oh, he's a former Eastern Michigan pitcher, this and that. So he had a no-hitter going, and I stepped up in the last inning, and I stroked one to right field to break up his no-hitter. And I was on first base, and he was giving me like a dirty look, and I was like, come on, man, this is adult league baseball. It's not that big a deal. And after the game, he came up and apologized to me. He's like, hey, I'm sorry for, kind of talking crap to you or whatever. And he had his shirt unbuttoned, his jersey unbuttoned. He had a Milan baseball shirt underneath it. And I said, hey, what do you know about Milan baseball? And he says, I'm the head coach. And I go, I'm your JV coach. I just got hired last week.
Oh, wow.
And it was Matt Avery, who was the coach before me. Gets even cooler. So about a month later, I'm in my cousin's wedding in Ann Arbor, and I show up to the wedding. I'm an usher, and I don't have a +1 or anything. I was single, so I was going all lonely to the wedding. And I show up to the wedding, and my cousin's like, yeah, you're walking with this young lady over here named Shelly. And I go, hi, Shelly, I'm Adam. She goes, I'm Shelly Avery. I go, and I looked, and it was Matt Avery's wife,
Jeez.
who's the head coach of Milan. So I ran into him twice in a month. And so I was his JV coach for 2 years. And the really sad part of the story is on Martin Luther King Day, 2002, Matt died in a car accident on his way to school.
Oh, wow.
And it was tragic. I was in the traffic jam on US 23 when it happened. And I remember driving past the accident thinking, man, I feel whoever was in that car. And I got to school, and Coach Robb said, hey, Matt's not here yet. And my stomach just sank because I knew that was his car. And a couple hours later, we got confirmation that Coach Avery passed away. And he left his wife, Shelly, and a couple kids at home, little kids. And they posted the job, and there were a lot of people that wanted the job because it was a successful program. They just came off going to a Final Four in '98. This was going into the year 2002 season, and I applied, and they went with me. They took a shot on someone that was 25 years old, and 22 years later, here I am. It was a rough situation of how I got the job. Yeah. But I'm still friends with Shelly Avery on Facebook. We still communicate. She still follows the team and the program. And it was a tough situation. But even the principal of our school right now, Aaron Shin, was my center fielder my first year.
Jeez.
So it was an interesting road to get to this point. But here I am.
Wow. So after all that time, almost a quarter century that you've spent at Milan High School, over 20 as the baseball coach, because I know you taught there before. What has kept you there all these years?
The assistant coaches and the players. I mean, I've had so many amazing assistant coaches. My very first one being Bob Ginter, who I coached his son my first couple years. Terry Bigham, who was Ipsy High's coach and Ann Arbor Huron's coach for several years. Chuck Maynard, Andy Schwantes, who was a parapro that got hired here that just moved into the area because his wife was at U of M, and he ended up being my pitching coach for 7 years before he went on to coach Division III baseball in Wisconsin, and now he's a high school coach. The Hoskins, Dave Hoskins, Jesse Hoskins. Dave Hoskins unfortunately passed away several years ago, but he's also in the Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame. And my current coaches, Vaughn Price, Stephen Price, Herb Morlock, Ryder Knox, Kyle Schrader. I mean, I'm surrounded by so many former players that want to come back and coach, and so many good people that are willing to just sacrifice and give their time. And the biggest thing we talk about, I mean, obviously I've seen some of these other interviews. You know, I'm not teaching anybody to throw 90 miles an hour or to hit 450. You know, we've got talent, and we've got kids that are willing to be coachable. And that's the biggest thing, and especially over the last several years with so much travel ball. You know, I'm sure other coaches do the same, but very first day, I always say, like, if any of you say in travel ball we do this, you might as well just pack your stuff and go. Right. Because we're going to do it a different way. We have a way of doing things, and we are going to be successful that way. And the kids buy into it. I've got a great group of kids now. I've got 10 seniors, and you always say you're only going to be as good as the seniors are willing to take you. And we're dealing with so many injuries this year, but these guys we're making it work. You know, we're doing the best we can. But you can't teach a lot of the talent. You can only try to mold it to fit your program as best as you possibly can, and I think we do a really good job of that here.
Did you ever flirt with the idea of perhaps coaching at the collegiate level?
Yes, a couple times, but I really enjoy teaching here. I'm the only health teacher in the school. Okay. I was voted the 2002 Metro Detroit Health Teacher of the Year, or 2022. Nice.
Okay.
And
sweet.
I just love the kids, and I have thought about going to other places. I had the option of going to Ann Arbor Huron several years ago. My dream would be just in a few years, possibly, is just be an assistant coach, so I just can come and coach, and that's it. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm here at Milan, I feel that it's kind of like my duty to give the boys the best opportunity they have to be successful.
Yeah, well, you have been successful. Over 400 wins as a head coach, and that is no easy task. Now, it's been about a decade. In fact, I think it's been 10 years since Milan made the state semifinals in Division II. I want to say that was 2013. What memories flood back to you when you think of that team, and do you still stay in touch with any of those guys?
Yes, actually, my pitching coach on the team is Kyle Schrader, who was on that team. That team, the 2009 team that went to the Final Four, was by far the best team that I ever had. That 2013 team was we basically small balled our way through everything. We didn't hit the ball very well. We had guys that threw strikes. We stressed defense, and we put pressure on the other team's defense. And that's really what led us there. And I still go golfing with All-State pitcher Thomas Lindemann, who was on that team. Like I said, Kyle's still on my team. And through Facebook and all their social media, I'm getting constant messages from the boys that follow the program. I mean, to go to a Final Four is unbelievably difficult. Yes. You know, and we've done it a couple times during our tenure.
Yeah, and I brought it up because your Big Reds got as far as the regional finals a year ago, and this was a team that was just 500 heading into the state tournament. Yes. Talk about your team this season. I see that you've had some guys go down to injury as of late. What are the expectations for this year's squad? What's the makeup of this year's team?
We are loaded with seniors, a lot of leadership. The biggest thing we're dealing with, obviously, with the injuries right now, but the majority of this team was on that team last year that lost 2-1 in 8 innings to Grosse Seal in the regional championship.
Right.
And the reason we get that far, and the reason our team is so resilient this year, is if you look at our league, over the course of the season, four of the 8 teams in our league have been ranked in Division II in the state.
Right.
You got New Boston, you got Airport, you got Riverview, and you've got us. We've all been ranked at 1 point, and we all can beat each other. Some of the competition in our league is just absolutely brutal, and it's only helping us. It's only going to help us as we go through the rest of the season. You know, we've got a doubleheader against Seaholm, who's ranked in D1. We've played Canton. We're going to play Plymouth Christian at the end of May, who's ranked in D4. Right. We're just, we're making sure we play the good teams so that when we get to the districts in the region, much like last year, that's why we were 500.
Right.
Because we played so many big schools. And we want to prepare ourselves by seeing the best pitching. I mean, we saw Gavin Muzzolowski last week. He's one of the best pitchers in the state. Yeah. If we can hang with him, we can hang with anybody.
For sure. We're talking with Milan head coach Adam Gilles. Hey, take the opportunity to shout out some of your team leaders, some of the guys who are going to get you where you want to be should you get there.
Yeah. Got to go with our senior captains, Connor DeSallier and Matt Bowman. Connor is a 6'5" pitcher. He's a 3-sport athlete. He's not playing anywhere next year just because his body has been through a lot. Matt Bowman is our valedictorian also of our school.
Wow.
Last semester, he legit got a 5.0 because he had 7 AP classes and got A's in all of them.
Wow.
Yes, we have Tyler Hatfield, Holden Gates, Elijah Beck, Jackson Morowski, a junior shortstop who's been a leader. Gavin Cruz, he was injured most of last season. He's our center fielder and probably one of the best center fielders I've ever had. Wow. If he wasn't injured last year, that 17 and 15 team might have been a little bit different because he would have added a whole nother element to our team.
Right. And so now you get an opportunity to surprise him on some of your competition. They haven't seen him. So you kind of alluded to it, but do you plan on continuing to coach for many more years? I see that also you had mentioned that you might want to get into radio as a second career. Is that right?
Yeah, I love, as the kids at school tell me all the time, like, Mr. Gilles, you can hold our attention for 50 minutes. You can do whatever you want. I love talking sports. I love the radio.
Right on.
I love sports in general, and I think I could do something with that. It's just something that, like, every time I hear those Specs Howard commercials, I'm like, man, I could do that with Rico. I could do that with Blenny.
Yeah.
And every kids just say, you always get that one kid that says I have a face for radio, not like you who has a face for TV.
Oh, thank you.
But with my sense of humor and my knowledge, I think that it's something I'd really, really like to do. And I don't know if I could do it, but you never know until you try.
Of course, and you can absolutely do it. And I would say the first thing you should do, because we live in incredible times, you can, maybe during the course of some of your off time, whatever, start a little podcast or something and start doing some things. And certainly, we can maybe do some stuff via the State Champs Sports Network here as well once you decide that you want to.
That sounds great.
I'm
all for that.
All right, I put it on the record here, so I've got to follow through with it if it's something you want to follow through with. But you've been a part. You've been a part of the MHS BCA for many years. You've even nominated people for the Hall of Fame in years past. What is it about this association in particular that works really well?
The leadership. Right now, President Todd Salka, they do a great job of communicating everything to us, and all the guys from the past. It's great to go when you go to the convention and you see some of the older coaches there that aren't coaching anymore, but they're still actively involved. The way that everybody communicates, especially, it's a lot easier now with email and social media. The way you're able to get all the information out to the coaches, it just makes it smooth. It makes everything nice and smooth. It's easy to get done. It's easy to nominate people. It's easy to recognize all your players and get the proper awards that they need to get, which used to be very, very difficult. But they've streamlined everything so well. that it makes it for a great situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, you're going to be in that Adrian district that gets going just 3 weeks from now. Adrian is also ranked in the top 20 in Division II right now. So I want to wish you the best. Maybe a margarita at Barrios one of these days. We could talk about your future. But thank you so much, Coach, for doing this.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.